Hyvää iltaa arvoisat katsojat ja tervetuloa jälleen Israelin asioiden äärelle Israel-studioon. Tämänkertainen ohjelma käsittää mielenkiintoisen haastattelun, jonka sain tehdä Jerusalemissa joulukuun 15. päivänä. Tapasin silloin Israelin varaulkoministeri Sharren Haskelin. Edellisenä päivänä olimme saaneet järkyttäviä uutisia Australiasta, Sydneystä, missä hanukkaa, juhlineita juutalaisia, heitä kohtaan hyökättiin ja 15 heistä sai surmansa ja kymmenittäin haavoittui. Vain siksi, että he olivat juutalaisia. Seuraavaksi mielenkiintoisia ajatuksia varaulkoministeri Sharren Haskelilta ja siirrän tästä lähetyksen suoraan Jerusalemiin. It's always a pleasure, even during hard times, to be here. Let's start first by talking a few words about your job. Mm-hmm. How does the work of a deputy foreign minister differs from the foreign minister? What's your scope? What's the scope of your work?
So first of all, it's important to understand the foreign minister dictates the policy. And then I'm one of the arms to make sure to execute that. On a professional level, that speaks a lot about, public diplomacy, many interviews. I concentrate a lot on the African continent and the challenges that we've got in Africa. I've been working through public diplomacy in countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and it's been busy. It's wartime, and we have to be very sharp on everything that's coming out because Israel has so many enemies and, very resourceful and rich enemies who are using many resources and a lot of money to try and combat us, not just through armies, but through propaganda as well. And so this is a daily combat that we actually go into. On the personal level, I think as a woman it's quite challenging. I'm a mother of 3. My eldest is 5 years old and my twins are 3 years old.
Wow.
So, going from shift to shift, the 5 a.m. shift in preparing them for school, for kindergarten, and then, the 7 a.m. shift going into interviews and coming to Jerusalem and starting to do the meetings, coming back, at 5 to 8 to get them showered, fed, slept. And then the last shift, which is, 8 until midnight, 1 o'clock, days like this, even 2 a.m. to do interviews and meetings. So it's been busy, it's been challenging. But it's a great privilege I have to defend my country and my people.
So you have international foreign affairs and then you have domestic affairs.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great. How did you end up as a deputy minister?
Oh, wow. So I joined Parliament in 2015. And for 10 years now, I've been serving in the Parliament. And Israel has a very vibrant and dynamic political world. It's been very challenging and busy, but since I entered, I've been dealing a lot on issues of security and foreign affairs. I guess, obviously speaking good English and French had help in trying to explain and to speak the truth about Israel in foreign media and in different foreign forums. And it's interesting because I wasn't certain I'm going to participate as much in the international arena because, look, I'm a classic liberal. I do a lot of work on what's to do with the economy, on internal security, border security, and civilian liberties. This is why I came to Parliament. But throughout the years, I know and I recognize that I have quite a few abilities in speaking to people and speaking in eye level and in order to explain what is happening here, because it's very complex, it's very difficult to understand. So throughout the years, with a lot of work that I've been doing in the diplomatic field, a year ago, when we've entered the coalition, Gideon Saar, the foreign minister, said, I cannot miss this opportunity. I love Parliament, don't get me wrong. I really, really love Parliament, and he knows I love Parliament. But he said, this is an opportunity to serve in the government. This is something that I'm very good at. And we are at war, and my skills can be used in favor of our country to defend it. And he told me, this is an opportunity you cannot miss. And I said, okay, with a heavy heart, I, departed from the Parliament, which is a big love of mine. The legislations and, the
Do you
debates.
need to resign from Parliament when you become a minister?
You don't resign, but you can't legislate, and
Right.
you can't go into the committees. And
You're still a member of Knesset.
Yeah, I'm still a member of Knesset. I'm still voting in the plenary as part of the government, but you don't do as much parliamentary work. You deal a lot with government's policy and international policy. So this is my main work right now.
So we are recording this interview on December 15th. And yesterday I heard you speak at the opening ceremony of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance conference at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I was really touched about your speech. I have your written speech here, but because of the tragic, horrible attack in Sydney, Australia, you started not from the papers, but from your heart.
Yeah, I was angry.
You were angry. You were.
I was hurt and angry.
Yeah, tell me about the
This
about
was
your
my
feelings and
This is my community. I lived there for 6 years.
in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia. After my military service, I served for 3 years in the military, and I think my soul went there to recover as well from a very difficult period of times during the Second Intifada. And that was my home, that was my community, the Chabad house in Bondi. I participated in so many of their events. And so I had all these friends that were calling me up and sending me images and telling me that they're safe, and I was so anxious. I was heartbroken, and I was so angry, because this could have been prevented.
So we discussed about the Sydney attack, and you said that it was preventable,
Yeah.
which it wasn't. So what do you mean by that?
I mean that for 2 years, the President of Israel, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, I myself, were warning them that if they don't act now, it will end with blood. Look, there was a massive rise in anti-Semitism in Australia. Hundreds of % of cases and events and violence against Jews and the Jewish community and Jewish businesses and in workplaces, racism towards Jews. The 9th of October, when people went out celebrating the Hamas massacre, chanting, gas the Jews, globalize the Intifada. Or just a few months ago, where parliament members and ministers in the current government were marching in the Sydney Bridge with pictures of Nasrallah or other Iranian leadership, with flags of Hezbollah, of terrorist organizations. what do you think is the message that is going to be sent across to radical extremists in Australia? That they justify it. They didn't take an action against it, and they could. And unfortunately, there were a lot of beautiful speeches, but there was no action behind them.
So, as I heard the news, and little by little I understood, so it was a massacre of 16 people, as
15.
15,
Yeah.
and dozens
Of injured.
injured. So, what about the police? Was they there?
Well,
were they protecting the Jewish community at all?
What I understand, this event was guarded with security. Some of the first one to be targeted by the father and son from a Pakistani background. They shot them first, the security guard, the police officers. And some who were there were just in shock, I think, and they didn't respond. It was a local hero who actually jumped on one of the gunmen, I think it was the father, and pulled his gun away. So even in an event that is being guarded by police forces, by security forces, there's still no security for Jews. They went hunting for Jews. They took out hunting rifles and they went hunting for Jews.
Let's go back to your speech yesterday at the Foreign Ministry. So, as I'm having your written speech here, but you were kind of in tears, you were angry, you were...
No, I was angry. I was heartbroken and angry. I know I will know some of these victims. That was my community. I lived in Sydney for almost 6 years. This is personal. And I was furious because things and measures could have been taken in order to try and prevent something like that. The writing was on the wall, so I was furious.
Yeah, I saw a letter from a Prime Minister Netanyahu to Prime Minister Albanese of Australia. That was kind of one of those writings on the wall.
Yeah.
Just in August, 4 months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
But so it seems I'm not an expert in international relations, but I try to understand more and more, and it seems that under Prime Minister Albanese, the relations between Australia and Israel haven't improved much.
Yeah, I would be lying if I would say there's no strain or there's no challenges in our relationship. I know that, for a very long time, Albanese is a pro-Palestinian protesters, activist. But I think that, during the last 2 years, instead of clearly thinking about foreign policy, one of Australia's greatest allies, historical allies, with such strong ties in security and business and technology and so much more. And he preferred internal politics to appease a very radical and loud crowd over foreign relations and foreign policy. Their rhetoric was one that adapted propaganda being sent by Hamas, backing a Hamas terrorist organization, backing UNRWA, which its workers have participated in the October 7 massacre. Much of the rhetoric that was repeating a lot of Hamas's propaganda have created an atmosphere, an acceptance or giving legitimacy to violence against the Jewish community. That's what it did.
So let's talk about diplomacy. So many countries, including Australia, recognized the so-called State of Palestine. And Israel is objecting it. So what are your grounds behind your opposition for the recognition?
Well, there was a recognition, and what happened? Nothing. That's the reality of it. On the contrary, when they recognized the Palestinian state, that was when Israel was negotiating with Hamas during a very sensitive time where we tried to break a ceasefire deal, where the Americans were putting pressure to break a ceasefire deal. And an indication that we've received prior to that was that a deal can be reached. But almost on a weekly basis, once with the Dutch foreign minister who called for a meeting to boycott Israel economically, and then another meeting about the education, and then came the declaration. And it was Hamas leadership that says this declaration was the fruit of the 7th of October massacre.
Which declaration? The New York one? Or?
The two-state solution declaration of France and
Saudi Arabia,
Australia and Canada.
Right.
And Hamas got their message.
Yeah.
Hamas understood that the longer the war continues, the more they refuse a ceasefire or the return of the hostages, the more they will be rewarded for it. And so for them, it was a game where they didn't want to reach a deal. And that's when even Marco Rubio said it out loud in an interview. After many discussions, we saw that Hamas does not want to reach a deal. And it was because Hamas was rewarded constantly for refusing to sign it. The pressure was on Israel, where Israel already agreed to so much. And so that broke. The current ceasefire could have been signed months before that if it wasn't for the stupid declaration. And did it change the reality? Did it do anything? No. It only kept our hostages for months more in the dungeons of torture, being raped, being abused. That's the only thing it did. This is on their hands.
So the Palestinian state, as they see it today, what do they see?
I have no idea.
Who is in the administration? What was really recognized?
These are really good questions that should be addressed to those leaders. Because, I watched a parliament debate where they asked, what's the capital? Who's the prime minister? What's the government? And they have no answers. And rightfully. Because this was just, a campaign. Part of a campaign to appease internal political pressure from these governments. Governments that their majority in these countries, in Australia, in the UK, in France, in Canada, rely on a small majority that is based on Muslim immigration coming from Middle Eastern countries like Pakistan, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, where in their school system, Jews are being demonized. Israel is being taught as a demon. They're being taught to hate us. And when they move to their new country, they are being taught, they are importing that hatred, that anti-Semitism into their new country of origin.
But are you saying that those countries you mentioned, they recognize the state of Palestine because of their own Arab Street in the UK, in France, in Australia?
Absolutely. This is a build-up of internal political pressure, yes.
Okay, hard to understand, but anyway, somehow understandable. So let's go back to the opening meeting of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance yesterday. So in your speech, in the written part of your speech, you said that if we are at a crossroads, we must choose our path. We must choose memory over amnesia, education over indoctrination, truth over distortion, courage over silence. So, as a European, I understand as I read them, but what do you see, which of those is the biggest and deepest problem in Europe related to the Holocaust remembrance and fighting anti-Semitism?
All of them.
All of them?
All of them. And especially the education. Because the education is going to teach your children, you know, their values, their history, their tradition. And unfortunately, we see more and more the younger generation being educated, not necessarily in schools or by books, but by social media and trends and influencers who have a very cool 30 seconds clip who distort completely history, who changes completely the reality of what had happened. And so it is all forgetting, not being educated properly about it, being fearful and silent.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I also disagree with you. I think the situation as a European, as a person from Finland, I think that the courage is the thing that people are lacking. What you mentioned, I think it relates to youth, younger people. But I think that the problem, as I see it, is that the elderly people or people over 40, 50 years. So I somehow relate it back to Germany in 1930s and 40s, when the good people, middle class people, they chose to stay silent, to live their good lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's the opposition of good people who are very loud and they are shouting. Good people are afraid of saying anything against those.
It shows us that we haven't learned anything from history.
Unfortunately.
And trust me, we remember history. And almost, in every persecution, the Jews were always a symptom for something much deeper. What do I mean? I mean, look on the Second World War. Yes, there was a mass genocide, attempt of extermination, a Shoah, a Holocaust to the Jewish people. And that was used as an excuse by the Nazi regime. How many European countries were conquered by them as this excuse was led by? How many women, European women, Christians and other faiths who were raped by the Nazis, enslaved by them, forced labor by them, not of Jews but of other minorities, of Christians or other people? How many people did they murder and kill? How many government were puppets of them? What was the excuse? The excuse was the Jews. And listen, my mother, she's Moroccan. There were hundreds of thousands, almost 1 million Jews, Arab Jews, in Morocco and Libya, Lebanon, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Egypt, Algeria. All of these countries had thriving Jewish communities. That was their homeland. They were persecuted, they were exiled, their property was confiscated, They were murdered and raped in pogroms like the Farhud pogrom in Iraq. Okay? And look today, who are the most persecuted minorities in the Middle East? Christians, Kurdish, Alawis, Druze, Yazidis. It's the same idea. It started with the Jews, and now other minorities are paying the price for it. I can go back and continue with it, but I want to tell you that the rise of anti-Semitism right now in Europe is a symptom of a much deeper disease that Europe will have to face. And they are exploiting your democracies and your laws and your politeness. Yeah. Okay? This is a war of radical Islamists, jihadists, who wants Islamist rule over the world. The Muslim Brotherhood, the IRGC, their organizations, whether it's ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, and many others who are already in your capitals, who have bases, who are fundraising, who are controlling cities through criminal organizations, who have built mosques that are inciting and indoctrinating the younger generation. Okay, this is all part of of a strategic plan for a world caliphate. This is radical Islam. And one more thing about it.
Briefly.
Okay, I'll try. This is a strategy that is not only won by military, but it's tried to destabilize your world and your community. If you look on your university and the narratives that your children are being taught in European universities is to support jihadist organization and to oppose and hate your history, your tradition, your flag with a cross on it, your religion. And if your younger generation will be taught to hate it so much, what will be his identity? Who will fight to defend your community and your country? And trust me, I know that. Yeah. I was a combat soldier. I fought for my country. And the only reason why an 18-year-old is willing to risk their life to defend their country and community is out of love. The love for their tradition, the love for their history, the love for their faith, the love for their religion. And if you don't have that, you will not have a younger generation who's willing to fight for it.
Hey, thank you so much for taking time.
It's a pleasure.
God bless you and all the best.
God bless you too. May God protect you. Thank you.
Niin, hyvät katsojat, kiitos jälleen seurasta. Ja jos haluat, että tämä tuotanto jatkuu tässä kevään aikana, niin olisi vallan hienoa, jos voisit noitten ruudussa näkyvien numeroiden kautta, pankkitilin tai MobilePayn kautta antaa lahjasi tälle tuotannolle. Mutta palataan taas asiaan ensi viikon lauantaina kello 20 ja siihen asti hei hei.